Call the Economic Development Committee meeting to order. Courtesy of the floor. And Tara Zarinsky is on the phone with us. And everyone is present for the committee.
Good evening. This time we would like to introduce Shelley Brown, who is the Executive Director of the State Theater in Easton, for a presentation.
Good evening.
Good
Hi,
evening.
everybody.
Hi.
So nice to see you, and thank you. Thank you for accommodating me early tonight. We have a show, a great big monster show, so the parking lot is full and the street is full, which is good. So I just wanted to stop by and let you know, give you an update on what's been going on at the State Theater. It's been a while. And I am often standing with a mournful face, and I hope it will make you happy to know that I have good things to report. We had a great year last year. We had the best season we've had since 2009. People came to our 90th anniversary and kind of stuck around and came back. I think the 90th really helped people remember what was great about the theater at the times that they came, what's wonderful about the building, which is, after all, on the National Register of Historic Places, how beautiful it looks. We opened everything up. We had even used the roof, and people saw spaces they'd never seen before. Now we've carried it over. We're doing different things. We're doing some different uses of the stage. We're having receptions backstage in the raw space, and people are really enjoying seeing their theater, seeing what it's all about. And it looks good, and you've certainly helped us in that regard. I'll get to that. We did the only cautionary thing. We had over 82,000 tickets sold, which, by the way, placed us by Polestar magazine's calculations as one of the top 200 theaters in the world with ticket sales, and put us about 40 slots ahead of the Sands, by the way, with revenue from tickets sold. So it was pretty exciting. The good and bad news is that we had two great one-time fundraisers, the 90th anniversary and the Dick Boak Bash, where Dick Boak retired from Martin Guitar, and we had all those amazing artists come in for free, and all of the proceeds went to the State Theater. So we do have about $225,000 from those two events that were one-time events. So we're already a little bit behind, but it was just too much fun to worry about. They were great, and they brought in a lot of new people. We've just completed new bathrooms in the gallery, which gives us the ability, the gallery on Northampton Street, gives us the ability to use that space independently from the rest of the building and not have that crossover that was happening where people would actually have to go into the theater to use the restroom at a function in the gallery. So that's another revenue source for us to be able to use that room for rentals and performances. We have 2,200 members. You don't have to, by the way, write any of this down. I have something I'll give you. We have 2,200 contributing members, over 250 volunteers. We give away, actually support other organizations, about 3,000 comp tickets a year. And for example, you may have gotten an email from us for donating socks, gloves, coats. People can get a pair of tickets to a show at the State Theater to help Project Hope. That's just the latest one. I mean, we are asked constantly. I have shopping bags full of requests from nonprofits who ask for donations for tickets to help with their fundraising efforts. So we're happy to do that when we can. We have a new ticketing system, which you really helped us with that, with a grant of $20,000. We are now space age. You can print your tickets at home. Of course, this was a whole new system, and if you've ever converted from an old system to something brand new, including scanners for the tickets, you can imagine it was like the earth moving down at the State Theater when we transitioned to this. And I don't know if anybody wants to hazard a guess. We did a sample of 3 shows and thought we'll see how many people want to print their tickets at home. Anybody care to guess on how many people? Keep in mind our demo and everything else. What do you think? 90%.
Wow.
90%. And I would have been shocked at it. I was light. I thought maybe 20 or 30%. But someone did point out to me after that really the airlines have taught a lot of us to do that. But it's kind of crazy to see people coming in the State Theater and just holding up their cell phones and scanning them right in, and so they can purchase and carry the whole transaction through on their cell phone if they want to. And it's really, really helping us. You can imagine the amount of ticket stock, postage, labor that we will not have to do using this. So it's really tremendous. And you, of course, helped us with marketing, and that clearly paid off. So we are so grateful to you for that. I also want to let you know that we have a $5.7 million budget. 50% of our patrons in the last survey we did, 50% ate locally, downtown in Easton, before or after a show. The Freddy Awards, which we're so proud of the Freddy Awards, and I just want you to know that over $1.3 million with this last year, the 17th year. 1.3 million passed through. We don't get to keep any of it, unfortunately, but it goes to the students, the schools, the scholarships, including last year, and it's going to continue again this year, 3 full rides, 4-year scholarships at West Virginia University. And the way that happened is that one of the people who works in their admissions office, one of the young people that started down there working there, because they have a school for the performing arts, said, you guys got to know about this program that I was in the Lehigh Valley, in Easton at the State Theater. They investigated it. They came up, it's like they're going to be their 4th year with us, and they're giving $92,000 scholarships. And one of them isn't for performance, it's for tech, it's for stagehands, and things like that, an opportunity for kids that is just unbelievable. And it's really grown. It's just changed the lives of students in the Lehigh Valley, and we're so proud of it. So we're hoping, onward and upward this year. So far, I mean, we're off to a great start, although we did have one cancellation, which we had a really well-sold show, and it was canceled by the artist, so, that puts us back. But we take 2 steps forward, half a step back, 2 steps forward, then winter comes. So, we're doing our best, and the lights are shining bright. The LED lights at the State Theater are shining bright, and we have high hopes. And I wanted to thank you because you've been there for us, and we're very grateful. And I do have a really fancy, our first time ever impact statement, first time ever, and our brag book that I will leave with you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I think you updated us well. Thank you.
I do want to point out that I know you're aware, I try to tread lightly on this, that for years our bread and butter was headliner acts that we lost over 100 of, when there are now 24 venues in the Lehigh Valley. And so we had a strategic plan 2.5 years ago that we implemented to really try and turn the ship and try new ways to use the building, new kinds of shows, new kinds of events. That's what I meant about using the backstage, trying to attract younger audiences, trying to reinvent, keeping what we've got, but also looking to the future. And we've worked very hard to do that, and we're going to continue to do that. And so far, I just wanted to come forward and say thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you speak to the summer camps and the educational programs?
Yeah, the acting camp. The acting camp, which is fantastic. It usually sells out. I mean, it's tremendous. And we also have, I think it was over 3,500 students last year who were in school-age students who come in during the day. Unfortunately, that number is not what it used to be because schools aren't doing field trips with the volume that they used to. And so, but we're doing our best to get students in. We also work with students. For example, when Patti LuPone needed a chorus, she asked for an adult choir to back her up for the Christmas show. Because of the Freddy Awards, we were able to convince her to use Easton High School's chorus, which, it's like a master class with a master artist. And we also do a thing with a bagpipe act that we have every March, the Chili Pipers, and we work with Liberty High School and get Liberty students in. And it's been such a great, it was funny, at the Liberty Freedom football game last week, they gave a shout out to the partnership with the Red Hot Chili Pipers that their bagpipers were using. So we're trying to get these students, and that's the great thing about the Freddy Awards. We had our first ever, we're 17 years now, so some of the kids are old enough now to be getting married. We had our first Freddy students get married on stage. We're doing a lot of weddings and creative things with the building, and we have this bond with these kids that have had such a wonderful experience with the Freddy Awards. So, I wish I could make things happen faster in some ways, and in other ways I wish I could just slow it down and savor last year. But I did want to let you know and say thank you and leave these for you. Should I give these to you? Or
No, I just wanted to make a comment. In spite of my heartbreak that Saucon Valley did not win a Freddie last year, I
am not one of the
I know
Valley
you're
Raiders.
not, but I had to bring it up. We were crying. But I want to thank you because my daughter has been involved in theater since she's in 2nd grade. She went to your camp one year. The friendships she made at that camp, she still has. She roots for those kids at the friendship. Oh, that's Lindsay. I went to, So what you do is really great for our kids, and I appreciate that. And we'll get you this year. We're trying. But,
like I said.
And I also had the first chance to go to the pre-show this year.
For the
which
dress
was
rehearsal.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
The pre-Freddie nights, if we ever get a chance to go.
The night before, the dress rehearsal. It's phenomenal. And you see everything but the award, the awards being given. But you see all the acts, all the kids, and standing in that room, seeing all those students support one another, is magical. It is. We had a woman write to us who said it's what a perfect world would look like, and I can't say it any better. So.
But I always refer people to your camp because if a parent wants to get their kids started, I think it's a very good bang for their buck, and it really gets their feet wet in the right directions.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
And I just want to second Lori in action. My daughter did the acting camp 2 summers ago and really loved it. It was great.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. It gets great praise from parents. If I had any influence, but I don't.
See, because now if we win, I'll say, oh.
But I don't. So anyway, thank you.
And Shelley, I just want to thank you for all the energy you put into everything, and you've made it a success over these years.
Thank you. Well, no,
and you never stop working.
The community has.
Yeah,
the community has, and we're well aware of that.
Leadership.
And the staff, most of the staff's been there 20 years or more. So, and with the hours, it's kind of crazy, but it's because now we have all those bathrooms. Everybody's really cheerful. So, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have a presentation by the First United Church in Easton.
Correct, yep. And I'd like to invite Michael Dowd up and sorry, don't quiz me because I can't remember everybody's name, unfortunately, but.
Good evening. My name is Mike Dowd. I'm pastor of First United Church of Christ. I'm a resident of Easton and certainly a resident of Northampton County. I've got to say it's great to see Shelley and a marvelous show. You had a great show last year at Saucon Valley. I really enjoyed that show. Actually, one of my favorite musicals, so I appreciate that. It's not often I come and be the silent partner in a presentation, but I brought 3 of our key volunteers who are part of the First United Church of Christ Save the Steeple program, and they are Rich Pfeiffer, who is our consistory president, our church board president, Noreen Arnold, who's chairing our committee, and Bob Arnold, who chairs our stewardship committee, which means he's the guy responsible for money and fundraising. I do have some reports I'll give to Linda that long and boring, perhaps for you, but it's kind of a structural assessment, a historical assessment of steeple. That's not to make the presentation. I'll stand aside and probably be after questions. Yeah.
Good afternoon. As Mike said, my name is Rich Pfeiffer. I am the current consistory president at First United Church of Christ in Easton. And the presentation you were handed out, we are going to go through those pages. We're basically Our cornerstone of our church, which is at 27 North 3rd Street, was laid in 1745. And the church itself was completed in 1746. It was last restored in 1971, so that's 47 years ago. We've been a landmark in the city for all those years. As it says, we're a beacon of hope and faith. We do a lot of community events. We run many, many events to help our locals, rummage sales, Cover the Piggies, which is giving sneakers and backpacks to children to go to school. We donate to local things, Safe Harbor, so on and so forth. So we are heavily involved in the city. Your one pleasure, the money, the ground and so forth was from the William Penn family. Indentured the ground we're on right now. You'll see a picture of the church 1776. It has been enhanced. It has been added onto a Sunday school, a brick Sunday school in the back was added years ago, a memorial hallway and so forth. We also have the first stone schoolhouse in Easton is located at the corner of Sitgreaves and Church. That was originally a log building. It was turned into stone. It was the first stone schoolhouse in Easton. We do have in our historical records the names of people who went there. The steeple itself, which is why we're here, was constructed in 1835 by Thomas Ustick Walter. He was a young architect at the time who this was one of his first projects. He went on to become rather famous. As you can see on that slide, he was the designer of the Capitol Dome, Philadelphia City Hall, and he is listed as a Dean of American Architects. The steeple itself is a landmark in the city, as I said. When you enter Easton, whether you're coming in from 22, from South Side, down from 78, if you're coming up 611, one of the first things you see is the steeple. As it says in your slide there, it's 187 feet tall, and it's when you see the Philadelphia News, if they have stories on the Lehigh Valley, many times one of the pictures they'll show for the Lehigh Valley is our steeple. It is on the National Historic Register, and it is the contributing building in the National Historic District itself. We are on, as I said, the National Historic Register. I will turn it over now to.
Hi, Doreen Arnold. I would just like to continue by saying our goal really is preservation of the building, of the historic value of the building. So if you want to talk about the historic significance, it was at one time the services were halted and the hospital or the building was used as a hospital for colonial soldiers during the Revolutionary War. Sorry. It was also an area where Thomas Paine was involved with Indian treaty negotiations. We still currently have, every year we have middle school teachers who bring the Easton kids to the church as part of their history lesson. Our steeple has 9 chime bells, which were rung for some very historic dates. One was the end of World War II, the death of Abraham Lincoln, the assassination of JFK, and the turn of the centuries, of course. We're hoping, as part of this project, to restore some of the bells and the clock tower and integrate them together again. Right now, the clocks are not working, and at one time, that was all integrated, the chimes with the clocks to ring at certain hours. We had a major renovation back in the early 70s, I believe it was 1971, where everything in the building was structurally, inspected to make sure that everything was structurally sound. We've done that again, just to make sure that safety is the number one issue when you're talking about an older building. So in our earlier renovation, we had to strip lead paint and do some obvious repainting. We restored the belfry area and did some other smaller renovations. In 2010, we commissioned a study by a local historic preservation specialist. You may know Tom Jones. He has worked with us on some additional history research that he's done on history of our church. And in 2016, we retained him to help us look at what was needed for us to restore the belfry, the clock tower, and the chimes, and the steeple. Structurally, and I think this is in the report, structurally the steeple is solid still. It's amazing when you walk up there. It's very solid and ready for the next 100 years. The balustrade and the ornamental work needs to be restored or replaced. You'll see in a couple of your of the photos that you have there. In one of the earlier photos, you'll see on the corners of each one of on the outside of the building, you'll see some large finials. Thank you. 8 large finials. Even though they look like little ants in your picture there, they stand about this tall. We have one saved one that we have in our church right now, but originally there were 8 of those. So they have all been either fallen or taken down, and for safety reasons, we still have just one. We would love to be able to restore those as well. Let's see. So the key is to try to, I guess, save the restore the building as it was as a historic site. We happen to have religious services there, but I think the history of the building itself speaks for itself. So I'm going to turn this over to Bob Arnold.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Glad to see everybody. Yes,
Could you just state your name?
I'm sorry, Bob.
Could you just state your name?
Bob Arnold.
Okay, thank you.
I handle the finances, or chair the financing committees, okay, down at church. And one of the key objectives, okay, of doing that is to separate the operating expenses to run the church, and of course our capital projects, and which is very important. I believe they'd probably be very important, and to the satisfaction of any kind of grant approval and process. And like other capital projects, or like other projects that we have embarked on in the past, we keep separate accounts, financial accounts, all the income and all the expenses for those capital projects. They do not overlay into the operating funds, okay, or the budget, okay, of the church itself. So I want to make that clear. And in receiving the report, okay, from Tom Jones, as well as some other obvious items that would need to be addressed with the steeple, we established the steeple committee. Again, a separate committee from the leadership committee called consistory, okay, at our church. And so we focus on exactly that. And what we have done there is that we have identified and procured proposals from all the qualified contractors in the area. They have provided us with proposals, not only to the obvious restoration areas, okay, but also their recommendations on what we should do to move forward. And like I mentioned, we have already established separate financial accounts, bank accounts, where all of the income, all of the funds as well as expenses, okay, are going to be accounted for, okay, going forward. As far as the project scope itself, at a very, very high level, the focus is going to be on the entire steeple, meaning that we will replace, or the contractors will replace, any rotted wood and loose metal. Currently, we do have a couple of aluminum pieces that have fallen off through the wind and weather and Mother Nature, unfortunately. Okay, so we definitely have to address that. Certainly, make sure that all the other items up there are secure. Making sure that, of course, items don't fall. Okay, and have an unfortunate experience as far as hitting something or damaging other properties, etc. From an insurance point of view. And of course, just restore, or I should say refurbish the entire steeple. Prime and paint. We're also going to have new strikers on the 9 chimes that are up there. And it's always very, very interesting going up there and in the belfry area, and where we have one central bell, universal bell, okay, which weighs 2,000 pounds, okay, in the center, and then of course 8 other large bells surrounding it. But also we're going to, as Doreen had mentioned, restore the clocks and integrate, okay, with an electronic system. So again, the clocks and the chimes would be integrated together. We believe that our goal for this capital project is going to require approximately $125,000, and that we are going to introduce this, okay, and visit various organizations, meaning restaurants and businesses and the community, basically, okay, to see if they can assist with us with this, as well as, of course, the congregation itself, and then, of course, apply for any kind of grants, which we've done, okay, with you folks, as far as any additional monies which may be available. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is this money to be used for phase 1?
Actually, the report that you have there had a couple different phases. Okay. Yes. And so what we have done is consolidated a couple of items, only because phase 1 and phase 2 had us go into a lot more detail, and knowing some of the costs associated with some of that detail, we have scaled back, I believe, what's in that report.
But my question is this money to be used for phase 1?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I believe, frankly, we can handle the entire scope of Tom Jones's project. We've actually now gone out and field tested bids. We have experts coming in, painters and so on, coming in and looking at things. They believe that the entire scope of the project can be handled at $125,000. So we believe we can complete the entirety of the project with that number.
Mm-hmm.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Has the city of Easton given you any money?
The city of Easton assisted us in a prior renovation project. We are going to be submitting an application for a facade grant. The city of Easton provided us with $5,000 when we took a program to restore the stained glass windows in the sanctuary and provide additional protections. They picked up about 20% of that cost.
Thank you.
To me, it's kind of interesting that, as Mrs. Arnold said, In 1776, the partnership with the county was kind of interesting. Two things. We have a letter from John Adams to Abigail. It says he's standing in Center Square, Easton, and he sees two significant buildings in Easton. He sees the beautiful courthouse in the middle of town. He sees the German Reformed and Lutheran congregation on 3rd Street. He said, I wonder if the Lutherans and the Reforms can exist for a period of time. But he said those are the two most significant buildings in Easton at the time, and they were the two buildings that really could accommodate crowds. The fact is that between 1776 and 1780, the congregation was being used as a hospital, regularly worshipped in the county courthouse.
Linda, I have 2 questions.
Okay.
May I ask?
Hold on.
Sure.
Go ahead, Tara.
First, I want to ask, how many congregants are there in this congregation?
The congregation is about 300 at the present time.
300 congregants?
300 members, yes.
And have you received any money from the Historical Preservation Society? I did not hear that.
We have not.
Have you gone to the Historic Preservation Society?
We made a grant application to the State Historic Museum Commission. They received the grant. They liked the grant. They asked us to resubmit for next year, but we did not receive a grant there.
So you have applied. So let me just clarify and make sure that I heard that correctly. You have applied, but you have not yet received a grant.
We did not get into the queue for a grant this year. We had applied to them for a grant, and what they really said was, we didn't hit the top tier of the grant requests.
And let me just ask one more question. What is the urgency of safety to complete this? Is there any urgency of safety to complete this project?
I would say the most significant issue for safety is, at the moment, structurally the facility is sound. If we don't do the work right now, there will be some deterioration of the wood on the building, and that's certainly going to happen. I think the most significant danger, frankly, is some of the siding where there is rot, and some of the aluminum siding, which was applied in 1971, has deteriorated, and some of that has begun in the wind to move around, and that's certainly a danger.
So has the congregation initiated any other capital campaigns to subsidize these capital expenses, like for the siding and everything else?
We are going to the congregation right now. We've approached a couple significant donors and have some folks who have said they are prepared to step up. We've also had some support from some existing businesses in the area, and this is our first step of really going out for dollars, but the county money is really going to be, would really be a major shot in the arm to carry the project through to fruition.
So your first step was come to the county and then do the capital campaign?
No, we're doing the capital campaign at the present time. So we've been going on a foot, but when it became apparent to us that there was an opportunity for the grant, we thought we ought to apply.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you responding.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Are you aware of any other projects that are very similar to this that has gotten grants from government agencies, in other words, church steeples in the Lehigh Valley?
In the Lehigh Valley, I can't say. Our consultant, Tom Jones, has said that the state has made grants through the Museum Commission to religious organizations. So the important thing for us in this respect is that we're looking at preserving an historic building. Religious activities can go on one way or the other, but we're looking to preserve the building, which we think is historically significant. You're not going to be supporting the worship activities of the church.
Well, that is the issue.
I understand
that. Mr. Chairman, just a couple questions, if I may. Sure. First of all, this is about the steeple, and that's it, correct?
Right. Yes, correct.
That's the first thing. Secondly, do you have a timeline established for your work? Something that you would like planned out in terms of dollars and cents?
Yes. Right now, we're planning on commencing the overall project in the spring. Okay, we were originally planning for this, actually this fall. However, one of the main contractors wouldn't be able to do it anyway because of all the rain that we've had. So, so everything has been pushed to the spring.
And then I'm going to ask the question that nobody's asked, but I think Tara's trying to get to it, is what have you, if I may ask, how much funding have you raised thus far?
Thus far, we've got about $10,000 that we've raised thus far.
And in what time frame has that started?
Reasonably short period of time. Actually, we started this fall.
Okay, so it's been only a few months.
We've raised, had a number of events. It's been a short period.
Okay, thank you.
Also, as far as reaching out to the community, we've had some publications, in the Morning Call newspaper, also on FMZ on TV, and as a result of that, through our website, people have donated some funding as well.
The example that you brought up about the state of Pennsylvania donating through a museum.
Well, through the state museum.
Can you clarify that a little more?
The state has and the exact words are going to escape me at the moment. The State Historical Museum of Preservation. Right.
Yeah.
So they own it.
No,
the museum owns
no,
the.
No, we own the property.
No,
but the state has made contributions to religious organizations for the preservation of historic properties.
So the example you gave, the museum doesn't own the building.
No.
The church does.
The church owns the property.
Do you know exactly which building which church that is?
No, I do not.
Okay. Okay.
I'm relying on our expert who was our consultant for the information.
Mr. Cusick.
Mr. Chairman, I think there's no doubt as to the historic significance of this church, and we have other examples in this community of the two Moravian churches in Nazareth and Bethlehem. What I would suggest is that we ask our solicitor to do some research as to whether or not this would pass muster with the constitutionality of awarding this grant. So my suggestion and what I would ask is that later this evening that we would make a motion to table this and wait until we get an opinion from our solicitor as to whether or not this is constitutional.
Okay. Can I have that in the form of a motion from one of the committee members?
Could I?
Oh, please. No, there's more comment.
I just said, I understand it's so difficult for churches in this day and age to sustain themselves and just take the church, the religious part away from it. This is a magnificent historic building that's an anchor of downtown Easton, and I think we have to be very cognizant of the importance of this building, and I think we have to look to see, first of all, if we are allowed to do it, which I can't believe that we would be, but I would hope that we could do whatever this group asks us to do.
The church and state issue is something that it's a scary road to go down for this council, and I think there's a lot of questions.
I appreciate you being judicious about that. I know that State Senator Lisa Boscola stood behind the project, our county executive has, Pat Toomey has, Pat Brown has. When you get a senator from Lehigh County to support a project in Northampton County, you know you've crossed the line. And they both stood behind the project.
I have a question, too. If aluminum was put on in 1971, is that historically significant? Should that be removed as part of the restoration?
Mr. Dees?
Yeah, our Mother Nature will take care of it. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to replace everything that needs to be replaced, everything which is in bad shape, and we will replace it with the appropriate material for the period.
We have a special warm spot in our heart here at the Government Center for a bell also.
I know.
Well, my other question also, if we're going to question this, number 21, Moravian Historical Society, we have funds for, that's also based on religion. So, I think that, we're investing in the building the same as investing in the historical. Well, I realize it's not the church, but the Moravians are specifically, the whole reason for being here was religious.
Oh, yeah, please.
Just two questions. You mentioned about some other religious buildings getting money through the state, were the buildings themselves registered as historic sites that got money?
I would have to defer on that, Mr. Heckman. I don't know.
Okay. And that's okay. The other question is, you mentioned, and I'm sorry, I missed it, the senators, you had backing from?
Yeah, we had backing on this project from Congressman Matt Cartwright, from Councilman Bob Warner, from County Executive Lamont McClure, Bob Freeman, Pat Toomey, Pat Brown, Sal Panto, Lisa Boscola would be the elected officials who.
Now, my question then goes to, has anyone at the state or federal level gotten you any money specifically for this? Okay, so they gave you their support.
They gave us support.
No check. All right.
Sure.
All right, that's all. Thank you.
We'd love if they did. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think one of our committee members is on her way. And there she is. You did not miss anything.
No, there was none.
You should read that to the bill.
Oh, you can still ask a question. Do you have another question? If you do, there may be another question yet, yes.
Did anybody want to second a motion?
If somebody would
We had
want to
a
come up
motion.
to address the question.
It's okay, move on.
No,
I'm going to get myself together for a second.
It's up to the chairman. If he wants to let you.
Bill, there was a proposal of a motion.
Yeah, well, we were.
Well, yeah, so.
I think I need somebody from the committee to make the motion, okay?
Okay,
I just want to clarify a
and-
couple points, because I was listening on the phone, and honestly, it just sounds like you're listening to everything through like a cup.
Yep.
It's tough.
And I definitely wanted to be here
Sure.
for this, because I realize how important it is, and that's why I made every effort.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, you said that you've raised $10,000.
Right.
Since what time?
Since the fall.
Since the fall?
Yeah.
So
Well, we
September?
began, the first project we had was a dinner project out at a local restaurant who were prepared to, they offered us a percentage of the gross revenues for that and so on. We've done, we just recently did an event at the church.
Basket bingo.
And, yeah.
He's going to take a lot of bingos.
Yeah. Which one of you is the finance?
I am.
Okay. So how much money does your church normally generate in a year, or from a previous capital campaign?
Oh, I'll turn on my microphone, too.
We just, I'll let you talk.
Yeah, okay. Again, from an operating point of view, as far as running the church,
Yeah.
okay?
What's your operating budget?
Which is an operating budget, okay? That's in neighborhood of about $110,000.
And that includes salaries for your ministers and everything else?
Part-time.
Oh, you're the minister there. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I come cheap.
Yeah. And again.
They must be very grateful for that, because I want to
Yes,
tell you,
we are.
ministers are not cheap.
They're not, yeah, that's right.
No.
That's very true.
So your whole entire operating budget is $110,000, and you have 300 parishioners. And you're in downtown Easton. Okay. And previous capital campaign. Have you ever had a previous capital campaign, and how much did you raise?
Yeah, we just.
And in what year was that?
That was 2 years ago now.
2 or 3 years ago.
2 years ago. We refurbished our stained glass windows.
Oh, and you got the $5,000 from Easton. Okay.
And before that, it was kind of an interesting situation. Before that, in a very bad winter, we lost a bunch of snow catchers and slate shingles, which have been there for 150 years. We also then took the opportunity to repair a lot of the fascia on the building. That cost us roughly $120,000 all in, out of pocket, and we were able to raise those monies out of the congregation.
Okay. So my concerns are, I think that was already raised, the separation of church and state. Funding for capital projects for churches, basically. Because there are a lot of historic churches in need. I used to serve at a church that was historic. They needed a new roof. They needed a new beam. They had to raise like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And their capital campaign went on for 1.5 years to raise money. So if you're telling me that your capital campaign just started in September and you're asking us for like $100,000 or more, it seems... Oh, $25,000. Sorry, $20,000. I just think that your capital paint, but it's a $125,000 project, you said?
Project.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Right.
So
We've
the,
got some donors lined up who are going to fund a significant portion of that.
you say that
We
again?
believe we've got
For a
donors
significant,
who will help fund a significant, without renaming names and dollars.
of course.
But we believe we can fund our share of that project in the next 2.5 years.
Okay. In 2.5 years. So is there, and that, I did hear about that safety concern.
Well, we have financing lined up
Mhm.
that will allow us, you know, as you would in any capital camp, we have got financing lined up that will allow us to complete the project.
Okay.
This $20,000 will go a long way to reducing the debt service.
Okay, because that was my concern,
Mm-hmm.
is that you get the grant and you don't have any other money to back it up to finish this project, which is kind of extensive.
No, we would not do that.
All right.
Surely wouldn't put the county money at risk in that situation.
Well,
We don't release it until it's done anyway.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you entertaining my questions.
Right, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, a little housekeeping here. We got a motion. We want to, do we have a motion to table this until the solicitor can get us an answer?
Well, you have to do it during council meeting because it's on the agenda.
The committee
So
can
we
make a
can't separate this
recommendation.
out?
It's a the committee can make a recommendation to
So-
council.
So it's a recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have a recommendation, and we don't need seconds or anything?
And then the motion to be made on the council meeting.
Okay, all right.
Just to clarify, for the resolution, are you proposing that you're going to table the entire resolution or table this particular?
No, I think we need to just pull that one out and let
Right.
everything else go.
That's what I would recommend, that, and the resolution would be modified to $829,000 instead of $849,000, $202. And you would remove number 13
For now.
from it, and that the rest could then move forward.
Everybody go with that?
If I may, I'm not on the committee. I think I would agree, but maybe by the time we get to the council meeting, somebody might have a problem with another one. I mean, we as council can take anything out we want, as long as we end up voting on everything.
So in the past, the way we've tried to do this, we've established a review committee that involved representation from council.
2 members.
To review and vet these projects.
Right.
And we gave them to you a month ago to review and let us know if you had any issues or wanted to talk about any of those. The way we've approved these in the past has been kind of as a batch.
Is there, may I speak? I know I'm not on the committee. Is there a point to that, other than that's what we've done? I mean, council can set a procedure the night of a vote.
I guess the point, we've taken a lot of time by council members to set up this review and vetting process. You haven't reviewed any of the applications or done any of the due diligence on any of the projects.
I think I mean, for me, to say that we maybe got this and took time to do due diligence, you're assuming that we just went home, did the laundry, do the wash, and we come in and all at the spur of the moment we decide we don't want this or that. Maybe some of us will have a few others we want to redline. We do that at council meetings, not in private meetings with DCED. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't want to get in an argument. At the end of the day,
I'm not
council
trying to argue with
decides
you.
how we're going to vote, what
Right.
we're going to vote on, and that's that. I'm sorry, but that's the way it works. I apologize. I'm not on the
No,
committee.
you're fine. Mr. Kuzic.
And if I may, what this is ultimately is this is a recommendation for the
Yes.
budget, which we will pass in the first or second week in December.
Right.
So we could.
This money is from what was budgeted for this year. We do this a little bit different than hotel tax, so that we actually have this money in
So I
hand.
guess then my question would be, if we were to wait 2 weeks, what difference would it make for you? It would make no difference if we were to just wait 2 weeks, table it, and then take it up after we get our solicitor's opinion.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
I'm not on the committee, and these are my thoughts, and they're just thoughts. You know, we emboldened few of our council meeting people, or council people, to be involved in the process. And we put our trust in them to come back with a good grouping of projects that they felt they had vetted and checked. And I believe that, I believe in following what they do, because I know the restrictions, I know the 7 areas that they have to follow. I'm sure it was a grueling process. So I would follow what they say, because they were there, and they did the homework, and they did the research, and they saw the programs that were presented.
I guess I like to kind of see in the middle ground is I agree. You know, we can bold to them. They took the time to do it, so I trust what they put forward. I also personally don't have an objection if any council member objects to any single line item on here to object it. Now, the reality being, I think there's probably a good chance that, you know, whatever one person would want to object to would still pass, because I put heavy weight into the effort that they put in. But I do think that every one of us has the ability, for whatever reason, we feel it not worth it to say be a no vote on something, the same as an appointee for a position or anything. But.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We should be able to question it, and it's not questioning your integrity, the people who reviewed these. That's what we're supposed to do on council. It's a checks and balance, and I think that we have to do our homework and we have to ask these questions because it's important. We're spending taxpayer money. It's important. So I trust everybody, but you know, we got to ask questions. Just find out.
Well, Bill, if I mean, and this is I'm not casting aspersion on, I know you guys were on the committee and you worked really hard.
He's not here.
Pick on, well, was he wasn't on, was he? You were on, and
Yes.
Oh, was he? All right. Well, yeah, here's the thing, and I don't want to come off because I get a stickler on what we do in our home rule charter, and and even Linda knows sometimes when people tell me this is how we do things, I get a little prickly, because how we do things is exactly what we want to do, and that's the only precedent is what we decide to do. That's precedent for me. I would say that just like any other committee, this may be more involved, suggestions, recommendations are made, and you take that into account as a council person. But when you get to the meeting, which is the only thing that counts, I mean, the committees are great, we do a lot of legwork, more now than did when I was on the first time. But the proof is in the council meeting, and that's where the vote goes. And at that time, council isn't saying you made a bad decision as a group or you did. They may have a fundamental disagreement, and just because they may not have had a press conference before then to go over it doesn't mean that they can act accordingly. And then accordingly, the voters decide if they think the person's a fool or if they did a good job. And so I simplistically, I guess, look at it that way. So it's no disrespect to anybody, to me, when a council member says, I respectfully disagree with you, as long as we're not ignoring the charter. That's all.
Mrs. Margot Hefner.
Since I was in the room where it happened, and Ken Kraft isn't here, Ken Kraft did question this, because as you all know, he's a fierce advocate of no religion versus, church and state. And so it was addressed in the room. And the reason that we did make the decision to pass it through was twofold. The significance of what the actual grant is. Because if you read what the grant is and what it is for the category of facade improvement. So it's also a historic building. And so when I looked at those two categories, I mean, it's not to preserve the pews, it's not to enhance the congregation personally in any way. And as a member of another faith, I'm not offended by this. I could see where it could cross a line. Same thing with Moravian. Moravian is, they came here for religion, so did everybody else's ancestors too.
Right.
So I just think we have to look back at what the grant is for, what the parameters of the grant are for, and did this meet the parameters of the grant? And if you want to pull it off and not delay the other folks that we don't have any question with, then maybe that would be helpful.
Yeah, I would.
The other question I have
is
is also, I'd like to see if there's a precedent where we ever did, because you brought up if it's constitutional, but if in the past we ever did do this, then that wasn't necessarily unconstitutional. Maybe this has already been reviewed. Maybe there's a similar precedent that there was another historic building that got money for this. So that's all I'm suggesting.
So is that the way we want to move with the committee? Pull one off and then because I can tell you, we did go through, and I understand what Ron's talking about, and Mr. Heckman and I agree with some of that, but we also did go through this last time. We went through, and that's where we kind of picked up on this, and with number 13. So anyway, that's where I'm at with it. So. Please come up to the.
Having sat there for 12 years, I hesitate to ask a question, but I must. And that is, if Mr. Spadoni can complete his study in the time that would allow you to move forward on this with a favorable decision, would you still be willing then to include it within the larger docket or approve it at a subsequent meeting?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
then-
I would think you'd have to separate it out
Okay.
and approve this so you don't delay the other
But you would then complete your report.
in a timely manner.
Yes.
I would suggest there might be a 2-week delay.
Okay? Yep.
If I read the tea leaves correctly, there is an ordinance
Okay.
for tonight.
Yep. That's
Council will
fine.
act appropriately under that, and yours will be.
I appreciate it.
I hope in November.
15th.
That'll be a happy Thanksgiving if that happens, I hope, anyway. But in any case, I just wanted to ask the question, see where we're going. But thank you very much. And thank you for your consideration and time tonight. Really do appreciate it.
Okay. Any other discussion on anything for the committee?
No, I think that's quite expensive.
Since we're already on the issue, if we look at grant number 10, City of Bethlehem.
Oh, yeah, we questioned that one last time.
It says Christmas lighting and decor plan. I don't have a problem with that personally, but there are some people that may. Would we be better off changing it from Christmas to holiday in order to be more inclusive?
But it's not holiday lighting. It definitely is Christmas lighting, unless you're going to include, a menorah out there as a lighting fixture and other things.
Well, I believe there are things like snowflakes and.
Are there?
No,
It-
there are some non-religious decorations.
It is
So
the
then you could
Christmas city.
justify holiday?
That is its nickname.
But would that not be an alteration of the grant as they wrote it? Because they already titled the grant.
We can have a revision.
Can you ask, you want them to revise their grant application?
Holiday.
We can call it whatever you want. That's, it's a name.
It's only on this sheet, correct?
What's that?
It's only on this sheet. On the grants, when it's written, it's only on that sheet.
Well, it was part of their application. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
not.
for reference purposes mostly.
Right.
So we could make that as a
Amendment?
amendment for the, okay. Anything else? Okay, we are going to adjourn the committee meeting. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Holy shit, I can't believe that.
Time?